Boy, the struggle has been a little real. I saw something on MSN that stood out to me, and I thought, well, I'm going to read through it and make a video at the same time, just in case something noteworthy comes out, given that it falls into the category of the kind of things that I'd be talking about anyway. I thought it would be appropriate to hear what other authors have to say about the topics. It's called The Millionaire's Dilemma: 15 six-figure jobs that nobody wants despite the lavish salary. Can I just say that nowadays six figures is looked at as, depending on where you are or who you're dealing with, six figures for some people really sounds like it's not enough for whatever reason. Per year, not even, oh, in a lifetime I made six figures to stow away in a bank. It's people genuinely think that life is not livable with six figures. Shit, try my life with only 5 figures. I make it work. The intro is: in the paradoxical world of career choices, there exists a peculiar dilemma that transcends the allure of six-figure salaries. Jobs that, despite their financial opulence, find themselves shunned by seekers of fortune. I wanted to take a second to try to guess which professions might fall on the list. At the moment, my imagination is kind of dry. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of struggling. It's kind of like brain fog. It started happening with me yesterday because I'm dealing with a little something. That's why I had to skip a topic yesterday. I'm gonna try to not guess anything. I want to see the list and then actually react to it, because usually as a critical thinker and critical writer, I like to pre-imagine an answer before I progress into the material that I'm reading. So now I'm trying to like quiet this down and actually wait for what my eyes actually see. The painful job of euthanizing dogs. Ooh, that would have never been on my list, that's for damn sure. Imagine your job involved sending a bunch of gorgeous, healthy sled dogs to puppy heaven because there were too many of them after a significant event. I was hearing something about how after lockdowns, a bunch of people who got pets during that interim all of a sudden have to return them. Then what? That's kind of how I think about kids sometimes. Imagine if we had such thing as some kind of return service for children. Just how many humans would be out there just unclaimed or ready for claiming because someone had the parenting experience and down the line they just changed their minds, and now those things don't have anywhere to go. A job to test for Vladimir Putin. Woo! Definitely not on my list either. Think about being charged with tasting all of the food that Russian president has. It's more than just a culinary task that's difficult. It's a constant game to look for potential deadly risks in delicious food. And yeah, I've heard of that before. I've heard of people who, if you are like an extremely high profile individual, you have assistants next to you who serve as, I guess, guinea pigs for tasting whatever it is that you're supposed to eat, letting it settle for a little bit, and if it turns out to be a safe experience for them, then you get the green light to eat it as well. That's one of those things that makes me be like, thank God that I'm not an important person, because I cannot just imagine a life in which I have to worry about what's in my water, what's in my food. And that's the side of me that makes me think, at what point must my life suck so bad and get so complicated to where I can no longer self-serve and I have to rely on people to act as my maids and servants because I don't have enough time to get out of my suite to give myself the things that I need, like if I need food or a drink. And imagine wanting to go out or something and then you have to actually coordinate your outing. We gotta shut down this road, we gotta do this, we gotta do that. Thank God that I like to be indoors anyway. I think a life like that would suck. The life that people tend to dream of, which is full of luxury and lavishness, I just run away from it. Maybe because I think about shit critically, and people just like to look at things as, well, it would be nice to have staff, an office, and be recognized everywhere, this, that, and the other. But have you ever thought that not everyone out there is gonna just like you, is gonna just love you, and they're not gonna wanna mess with you? I'm not saying that as a regular person, there's no one out there trying to do harm. I know there are, but I'm just saying that this makes it easier for too many people to know who you are, but for you to not know too many people, and then you cannot even begin to trace who could possibly have such ill intent. So I'm never gonna be jealous of that. A kamikaze pilot's one-way mission. Having a kamikaze pilot job would be very short-lived work. You would be strapped onto an aircraft for a one-way flight with no return ticket. Even the thought of your kids inheriting enormous wealth couldn't justify such a precipitous decline into nothingness. I never believed in missions type of things, because I always think, why is it that I have to give my life up because of someone else's politics? But I do understand that in some cultures that's actually a sign of bravery and honor and all those traits like that. And I just try to put myself in a situation like that, and I always think I just cannot settle down for the idea that my existence is simply to be lived briefly and for me to serve everything and everyone but myself, and just be like, well, I gotta do this for the good of my family, the good of the country, but it doesn't matter for me. What? No, I matter too. I made it here. That's why I'm the one who's alive and not about to be alive. And I think that we need to put more value on the lives that are already here and do something with that. I have had a video topic that I haven't gotten to, and it would dwell in that area. The unsettling task of a concentration camp guard. I have thought about this before. I have thought about what would it be like to be one of those prison guards. Any kind of prison, really, especially that one prison in Colorado. I forget the name of it, but isn't that where they shipped El Chapo to? That's out there in the desert, made of concrete pretty much everywhere. And there's like so many layers of walls and things, and there has been no record of anyone escaping from this facility. And I think it opened in like 1993, 4 or 5. Anyway, it's that old. It gives me the chills to my very bones to even consider playing a guard at a concentration camp. The weight of the suffering souls and the sight of the horrors would seem to be the weight of the entire earth. And that's one of those things. I think if you ever choose a job, it has to be a job that ideally would supplement your life emotionally as well, and not something that, okay, maybe your life outside of your job is super colorful, but then your job is super dreadful. I think that maybe the people who have to do dreadful jobs need to have the colorful life on the side to balance that out. But there's also a part of me that feels like I'm not sure how much of a reward or a curse that is, because you know that for however many hours your commitment lasts for, you cannot escape from that world, and then you leave it, and somehow you gotta be able to carry a normal life despite all of that shit processing in your subconscious. How do you do that? And how do you do that without the interference of external things? Without having to drug yourself, without having to take antidepressants or whatever pieces of candy y'all like to eat to send your mind elsewhere so you can exist? I would be curious about that. Itchy experiences with fiberglass. Think about working with fiberglass every day. This stingy body would be more annoying than a swarm of annoying mosquitoes. Every day would be filled with persistent itching. Not even a lake of cash could calm your skin or your mind. I have never considered that. This list is turning out to be a very good one. I cannot say I would have imagined any of these so far had I tried to guess earlier what could possibly be on this list. Claustrophobic cave diver. Imagine yourself as a trained cave diver exploring the deep, murky interiors of the planet. The depressing knowledge that you are stranded kilometers below the surface stifles the excitement of discovery. There isn't enough money to buy a flashlight that is bright enough to warm the chilly depths. As much as I like the earth sciences, I've never been wild about exploring caves for this reason. You guys know that I have a degree of claustrophobia, but it's not too bad. It seems to be one that's more induced by the presence of too many people, the presence of crowds, the noise of crowds, and just just freaking people everywhere. I don't need to be surrounded by freaking people everywhere. When I'm on a plane, it doesn't bother me because I feel like I have a fair distance between myself and the passenger in front of me. There's like a seat serving as a barrier, but I don't mind planes because I think that they're cool, they're fun if you let them be. But when it comes to cave diving, I think that it's what I keep saying about how if I do not have control of my environment, that's when I tend to get stressed out. Diving into a foreign area like that, and I don't know what creatures I may run into, what emergency I may face, how my lack of communication with someone, if something were to happen, when would I get assistance? This is the kind of shit that you don't want to do by yourself. I also tend to have problems with my skin too, so who's to say that down there I'm not gonna run into something that's gonna mess with my skin. So nah, I don't need to be a cave diver. Daunting heights of a maintenance worker. You might understand the plight of high altitude maintenance workers if you've ever had your stomach lurching at the sight of incredible heights. Anyone would feel queasy at just the idea of clinging helplessly to a skyscraper with winds howling all around them. Window cleaners, the skyscraper window cleaners, those are the folks who usually come to mind for me. But also, what about the individuals who may need to service an air conditioner unit that they throw on the roofs of buildings? I don't need to be doing all that. And even if I wanted to do all that, my technical skill is so non-existent that I couldn't possibly do it. The sting of a beekeeper. I like to eat just like everybody else, and sometimes in excess, but bees are something that I just cannot stand. And I think that I've only gotten stung by a bee once before. That was like back in 2017-ish, 2018. I was wiping down the ice machine outside at my job, and there was this goddamn bee just being a bee, and I tried to maneuver around it, and this bitch ass bee had the audacity to sting me. I think it was in this finger. It was either here or here. It stung me and it left a fucking stinger behind, and I'm like, oh, what is that thorn on me? And yeah, it stung for a bit, and it gave me a little bit of a chill kind of feeling, but at least I didn't have a legit allergic reaction like my brother experienced one time when he got stung. And that was my immediate worry. I'm like, oh shit, my brother has a history reacting to this thing, so who's to say that that's not gonna happen to me? But fortunately, outside of the little discomfort and that slight chill feeling, and then the sight of that thorn looking stinger attached to me, it wasn't really that bad. But I think that what stresses me the most out about bees is, you guys know I don't like noise, is the way that they just buzz by you. That buzzing fucking sound just makes my hairs begin to stand and give me goosebumps. So yeah, I don't like bees as much as I like animals. I'm not wild about bugs, and bees can just fuck off. Now, I never kill them. No matter how threatened I feel, I never kill them. I always feel, well, I owe this little creature who's currently misguided by being here as opposed to being out there pollinating stuff. I'm not gonna be too harsh on it. It is whatever. Just like spiders, I try my best to not kill them, but I very seldom don't have a choice. Now, if for some reason I don't have a choice, I try to be a little wise about it. I try to lure it as far away as possible, because knowing my luck, I wouldn't want to ruin a spider's life that is gonna have the last laugh and be like, ha, 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 I'm a sack full of embryos that as soon as you squash me, they're all gonna activate, and then you'll deal with a stream of 1,000 more tiny me's speeding off my carcass. Like, nah, I don't need that. The life and death job of a surgeon. I have actually thought about this before, and this is one of those things that made me laugh at myself, thinking for the brief period of time that I said, you know what, I like cardiology, I'm gonna be a freaking open heart surgeon. And I said, oh lol, let me remember my reality of who I am and how financially there's no way I'm ever gonna go to college in a viable way. So I said the last thing in the world I would be able to afford is a medical degree. And I'm pretty happy about that because when I think about it, I may not be squeamish about the sight of body stuff, body processes and blood and open flesh, all of that. Like, shit, I can eat popcorn through all of that. But there's a difference between seeing that behind the screen and experiencing someone cutting themselves here and there, in some cases kind of deep, or someone showing me their fresh wound from fucking destroying themselves in a bike wreck, right? I don't think that I would want for my everyday to be those kinds of sights. And most importantly, smells. Nobody ever describes the smell of fucking death and body. Bodies just stink from the inside. I always admire the people who take the time to describe the environment in its entirety. Describe to me the people who may be moaning and crying and wailing, and the family members when you have to communicate shit to them, the theatrics and dramatics that you're going to observe when people's emotions start going down. That can't be my everyday. And even as someone who works customer service, when someone begins to display a little bit of emotion, all I want to do is just roll my eyes until they just glue to the back of my head, and I don't have to witness any more unpleasantries for the remainder of my shift and stuff like that. So to be a surgeon, though, I would want to focus on the benefit of what I'm doing, but at the same time, there's that part of me that's like, I really don't like this. I don't like cutting people up. The amount of time this takes, the goals that I have for my life is to live a very simplistic life. And that sounds like the kind of thing where a procedure can just drag. And then I'm trying to have a life at home. If I have to be in a clinic doing all this stuff, what is that time away from home? I don't need to be doing all that. But I also think about how much it costs to get there, like the 10 years, possibly more, of training and schooling and practicing and all that shit. And then you're just one mistake away from all of that being put into question. I don't deserve that stress. I deserve a better life. Yeah, somebody else can do it, not me. The stress of a shelter worker's work. It is heartbreaking to have to put down pets at an animal shelter. Every single wag of a tail and every pitiful cry would drive a spike through your heart. You would feel a tremendous weight on your chest after working here that couldn't be lifted. That's true. Seeing animals so helpless, it definitely messes with me. There are times in which I wish that I could do some of that. Be like, oh, maybe I can help some of these pets find homes and things. But I think that a problem that I don't see is a problem I don't have to suffer with or from. I have to be a little bit selfish in that regard and be like, I cannot save everything. I cannot save everyone. As much as I would like a world in which nobody's in pain, nobody's homeless, nobody, also counting animals, needs to go hungry or cold, it's not realistic. Someone out there is just not gonna make it. If we can provide a little bit of alleviation, then great. But I don't think it's fair to expect for everybody to just feel bad about that. Maybe if only we could come up with a way to mitigate that from happening in the first place, that would be awesome. But I think that has to be an interest that we as a whole have, not just a handful of people, but also me as an individual. Don't try to shame me into feeling that. Leading the nation as president. Oh my god. I have had a video pending for like 6 years now in which I tried to describe two aspects of the president. I'm not going to spoil either of them, but I just want you to know that I have a pending rambling about the president. But as I do that, I want to truly, either as I make that video, have a source material open that describes the role of the president so I can kind of provide my opinion better, or based off what I know already, what do I believe the job of the president to be like, and then consider that from what I do get to observe about a president, what a president actually does. Because when you think about it, how much does the president actually influence your day? They really don't. They just go about their business. And I guess the biggest influence they could have is as the folks who enforce the law type of thing. Then okay, a law that comes out on a federal level is going to trickle down to the states, which is going to affect all of us, right? But unless it's something incredibly noticeable, then most of the president's actions don't really seem to have a direct effect on me that I can just instantly perceive. And I remember when people were trying to put up those lame ass stickers. I don't know if you saw this in your state. I did see a lot of stickers where people were putting on their cars things like "Let's go Brandon" for Joe Biden, which I always forget what that means. At the gas pump, I did begin to see people vandalizing the gas pumps by writing on it, or sometimes putting stickers about "I did that," meaning the price of gas. And I think, well, when you drive a practical vehicle that runs forever, it takes forever to burn the gas off a Corolla, then, I don't give a fuck what the price of gas is. It could be $5 a gallon. It's not going to affect me because I have a vehicle that's actually practical to own and drive. Now, for those of you who pick cars based on the aesthetics of it and the features that it may have, and maybe as a social symbol, then yeah, you're gonna freak out about it. But when you make decisions that keep your life simple, honestly, no matter who the president has been in my life really hasn't changed for the worst, at least. And it hasn't gotten significantly better. But I feel like the president rarely has a major effect on the flow of my life. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, if there are any of you who can tell me of active ways that the president directly affects you, please let me know. I can say that the way that I live my life and I obtain things and I show up to work and I pay my bills and I choose where I live, it's been pretty much the same the entire time I've been alive. The only time it was different was as a kid. I actually had a home that my mom, she didn't quite own. We're still paying for it, but we had a house as opposed to living in apartments. That's about the only difference, but I don't think that had anything to do with the president making it more possible that my mom could get a house. That had to happen because after my parents split, then my brother and I, as children, the court ruled that we need to find a house that's proper for two children to grow up in. That's pretty much it. The president had nothing to do with that. But the description under this is, although being president may seem glamorous, to me it's never seemed glamorous. In practice, it's like navigating a ship through an endless storm. Every choice is carefully considered and every action is examined. Even a king's ransom wouldn't be enough to compensate for the constant strain at the helm in comparison to the freedom of your ordinary 9 to 5. That's what I mean. The things that sound like they're full of glam and cool and awesome superficially, a lot of it sounds restrictive. And maybe that's why a lot of those folks end up with problems. Everybody's always like shocked and surprised that, these issues are coming up in this person's family, and I'm like, hell no. That's not sustainable for any person. Choosing the easy way out as a scammer. Oh my God, I was talking about this with someone the other day. I'm like, imagine being a scammer, one of those people in those scam call centers, as opposed to just getting a regular job, doing something perfectly legal, committing to whatever job it is that you have to perform. But at least you know that you clock in, do your shit, clock out, come home. You have nothing else to do with your job. You have the peace of mind that you did everything, and then you just show up. I get it. It's monotonous. I hate my fucking job. You guys know it. But at least I don't have the stress of, ooh, when is this gonna come crashing down on me? I'm actually breaking the law in some instances. And scamming in general, it is a crime. Can you imagine living that life and then trying to convince people that the job that you actually perform, when you answer the question of how do you make a living, is legit? How do you even do that? I cannot do that with a straight face because I'm not a fucking liar. This is a very job that's asking you to be a fucking liar, especially with trying to rob people of their wealth, their money. Somehow you feel entitled to the money that other people made, and you're trying to obtain it through dishonest ways. And in some cases, for some of these people, that is all they have, and you're just taking it. Especially when you prey on older people. To me, that's just absolutely disgusting. Something about exploiting individuals who are in a vulnerable state. That's just an ultimate form of bullying that I just despise. I just would hate that. If your profession required you to intentionally deceive innocent people, you would be financially wealthy but morally bankrupt. Exactly. Your enjoyment would be eroded by the crushing weight of guilt, which would make every single dollar feel like the heaviest load. Exactly. Risky chemical battle. Consider doing a job where hazardous materials are around all the time. Your health is the stake in a continuous game of chance. A risky career would guarantee that you would always have a bitter aftertaste of terror. Yeah, I've always wondered about that. I'm like, there's some stuff that has been discovered, chemicals that have been made and stuff, that all those warnings that they have, warning labels and on the ads, how they have to put in the fine print that you shouldn't ingest this or whatever it is, and the way that they have to train people, emergency services, to be able to address someone who is poisoned or something. I don't think that's nice. I don't think it's cool to be in an environment dealing with chemicals, especially chemicals that may be volatile, and controlling the environment for them is not always optimal. Some chemicals really react extremely unpredictably, and then you're caught up in all that. I don't think it's worth it. And some of the things that make me weird out about chemicals is, sure, I think that science is fun and all, but I also think about the chemicals that once they are invented, we really don't have a way of disposing of them. You ever think about nuclear waste? That was invented, right? But after we use the part of it that we're supposed to use, the rest of it, it's like, oh, okay, we gotta store them up in these barrel things and bury them somewhere because we literally don't know what to do with that waste. How much of that can you produce? And then the last one is exploring the abyss as a deep sea underground worker. As someone who's into the sciences, oceanography, and little things like that, marine biology, it's never really been my favorite. I'm to a certain extent afraid of the ocean. It's crazy considering that my family is pretty much a lineage that depended on the sea a lot, considering that I'm, from the East Coast. I've never been wild about that. I am curious about the ocean, of course. Me personally, involving myself in the process of discovering and mapping it out and studying it, never been my thing. But if I hear about anecdotes or watch videos or an educational course about it, sure, I'm engaged and I'm interested. But it's one of those things that's like, I can enjoy it vicariously through other people, as opposed to me having to put myself out there. Just like meteorology. I love the topic. I love learning about the weather and witnessing it and learning about it, understanding it, but it doesn't mean that I'm interested in actually learning about the math part of it and creating models and all that shit, or improving the tech to be able to predict it better, things like that. Never really been my thing. I enjoyed the subject, but I don't necessarily need to be experiencing it, if that makes sense. Working underground or at great depths in the ocean is extremely confined. Any person's heart would race with panic if they were imprisoned kilometers below the surface. Only the cold and the dark for company. Those terrifying depths couldn't be eliminated by even huge money. And that's it. That's the list. I think I was expecting some stuff that lingered more on the dangerous element. We got some of those, like the deep sea explorer and the skyscraper maintenance person. Possibly the surgeon, I guess, could be described as a dangerous job, but it's not necessarily an immediate danger on your person. It's more of the danger of you having someone else's life entrusted to your medical knowledge and your ability as a surgeon. These weren't too bad, and some of them I honestly didn't really consider that much. Well, there you guys have it. That's it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like always, let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you soon.